Hey guys, this is High Tech Home here today. I'm doing another project. Today's project, I'm going to put brake shoes on my Toyota Corolla. Once again, about 88,000 miles. Started hearing some noises when I was braking, pushing the brakes hard. Heard a little sound and a little squeak when I was backing out in the morning. So I figured it was time to check them out. To get started though, we're going to work on getting the car jacked up now. I've already taken the liberty of jacking this one up, so we'll let you zoom in here and take a look, okay? So if you guys can see, I've got my car lifted up from a center point, and on this particular car, there's an actual tow hook under here, and I figure if that's strong enough to pull the car with, it ought to be strong enough to lift the car, and sure enough, it is. So if you guys are doing the same job, you can go ahead and try that too. It should work. Of course, once I got it up in the air, I put a jack stand on either side just to stabilize the car. I don't actually let all the weight down. I let it down onto the jack stands, make sure they'll hold it. Then I jack this jack back up a couple pumps just to put some pressure back on. So all three are actually holding the car right now. Already taken off one side already, and this is kind of what I found. As you can tell, there's quite a bit of difference here between the thickness on the original pads and the new pads. So they were getting pretty low. These are not completely gone, but I would say if I had driven in another 10,000 miles or 15,000, it would probably start hitting the rivets and the pads would start coming loose. So this is what we're trying to take care of before it gets too far gone. And you can tell there's still there's a little bit of a groove there, but it's pretty much gone. So that's what we're trying to fix today. Now when it comes to brake pads, I suggest, since you're doing it yourself, not to cheap out. So you know, we're using these, you know, Duralast Max here today. This is just an AutoZone part, but it's the best one I can get from AutoZone. And honestly, I mean, you're saving your money on your labor, why not get the best part? So these are lifetime warranty, and they're supposed to be low dust, low noise. They come with, you know, new clips in the box, so you get all new hardware to go on your brake pads. You have the little new pads on there, so you don't have to remove the old ones off of your factory. They come with new ones, so you're good to go there. So you get what you pay for. So let's save money on labor, not save money on our parts. Alright guys, so getting ready to take these off here now. The lug nuts off. It's a pretty easy job to do. You know, I've got an impact wrench here. I got a 21 millimeter socket on it. This is not an impact rated socket. You shouldn't do this. If you got money, go out and get yourself you know, a nicer socket, impact rated. But for me, this will do for the moment. If you don't have the money for the impact wrench, you know, I had one, but you can use the tire iron that comes in the back to take the tires off. You just use the wrench that you use to change the tires with the spare, and that'll do the same job. All right, and you may need to leave the car on the ground to loosen them if you're going to do that. You know, right now we've got this car off the ground, so if you're going to use a tire iron, you need to kind of leave it just barely touching. Take the weight off the tires, but leave the tire on the ground enough that it'll hold itself in place while you loosen them. So that's usually what we do. It seems to be the safest way. And then once you get them all loose, you can jack this up and put it on the jack stands. So that'd be the only catch. All right, so here we go. And it looks like these are pretty hot. So how about we throw that in reverse, shall we? There we go. All right. Alright, so give it a little bump here, break it loose. Usually have a little rust on them. Spin it out of the way and lay her down. And that's all there is to that. Next, we got to get in here. We're going to switch out. So I've actually got two pneumatic tools here. One is my big impact wrench, and then I've got a little side wrench here. These aren't very powerful, so this may or may not work too well for you. If not, you can always use the wrench that comes with your socket set. Let's see if we can get that out. Let's see if that's the right way. Alright, it should come loose. Nice. Okay, so this car only has 2 nuts holding the brake calipers on. Once you get that loose, just fold the caliper back, flip it over, and if you're a pretty well-behaved person, you can balance it up there for a little while so it's not hanging from its hose. Alright, when you move this thing around though, you can tell I'm trying to go with the flow of that little hose there, not trying to do anything too crazy. Next step. Alright, so this caliper is compressed, or extended, I guess you could say, and we need to compress it back in. So the auto parts place should have a little C-clamp for you. You take the little C-clamp, see if I can get this on there, tighten it up, and you can slowly compress the piston back in to the brake caliper. And take your time on this, because if you do it too fast, you may have this little rubber gasket that's around this piston blow out because of the oil behind it seeping out. So just do it slow. They don't come out quick and they don't go in quick. Okay, so just now got done pushing this one all the way in. Take that C-clamp off, and you can see now it's just the piston here in the middle. It's now flush with the outer part of the caliper. So that's all you got to do. Don't go too far in. There's nothing necessary there. So we'll set that back up there, and then now we got to go down to the brake pads and try to pull them loose. Shouldn't be. If you're in the northern climate, this could be hard, but here in Georgia, they come right off. Once again, they're about evenly worn, which is about what you expect. Let's see. I got a little more pad on that one than I did on the other side maybe, but this one's pretty well worn out, so I think it's time we'll replace these and get the new ones installed. Alright guys, so when you install these, they come with new clips. So in order to figure out how the clips go, look at what you have already. So if the clip's on there like that, well then put the new clip on the same way. That's all there is to it. So take one off at a time, put one new part on at a time. This one actually has, this kit has these little tabs. I don't know if you can see, but here's one of these tabs. Here's the new tab. And you've got to put them on, so you orient the pads, same direction, same curve here, side by side. Now you know which side to put it on. Then you put it on. Just match them up. Do one at a time, alright? One part. Don't try to take all these little bits and pieces off real quick. Just pop one off, put a new one on. It won't take that long, alright? Okay, so now we're going to remove these little clips. I got the new clip in my hand. And see if I can just pry this off here. Shouldn't be too tight. There you go. So that's all it takes to get that loose. Got a new one. Go. Alright, and that's it. I've already gone ahead and put in the other 3. So all 4 clips are in. And of course you saw me earlier put this clip on. So next step is to put some grease on the calipers, and then we can install it. So they should provide you some grease at AutoZone or Advanced, wherever you go to. You don't need to put this anywhere but on the moving part. So these pads, they slide in and out up against the rotor. So the moving part is actually on the ends here. It's rubbing against these clips. So I'm going to apply a little grease right on those clips. You can see that now. Don't have to go too crazy. I'm probably using more than I need, but That's pretty much all that is. Do the same thing on the other side. There you go. Both sides are lubed up. Alright, so there should be a little arch here. This is, of course, to match the shape of the rotor itself. This part may not go too smoothly depending on how skilled you are, but don't worry. I'm sure it'll fit. Let's see. So I'm going to try tucking the bottom one in first, and then slide the top in. There you go. That's all there is to it. So we'll flip around and do the back one here, and I'll see you in a second. Alright, so now we're going to put this caliper back on. This should still be flush before you install it. We'll see how well this fits. So if you pushed it in far enough, it should go right over the two new calipers, even though they're a lot thicker than they were. There is a bolt here that rides in and out, and I don't know if you noticed me, but I squeezed that bolt back in, compressed it back in so that the calipers would center up where they need to be. Alright, so now we're going to lift this up and line up this bolt here. See if we can get started. Now, if you're using pneumatic tools or drill or whatever, do not put the bolt in from the very beginning using the pneumatic tools. You should always finger tighten these things in. The reason you do that is because if you put a pneumatic tool, you know, like this on that bolt, and you start it out with that pneumatic wrench, you cannot feel how much tension there is. And you could easily cross thread the bolt and end up having to replace it. So finger tighten it in as far as you can, at least a couple turns so you know it's actually going on right. Then bring in your wrench, finish it off. Alright, now for me, I like to finish the entire job not with the pneumatic tool, but by hand. These appear to be an aluminum bolt, so aluminum is not very strong. It's easily broken, especially when you have steel turning it. So it's better if you take that bolt, put it in the rest of the way by hand. And the joke on the internet is torque to spec. If you haven't done this before, I suggest you find out the torque specs. But I'm going to probably bet that 50 to 80% of guys aren't doing that. So just remember it's aluminum. I'm going to say that's tight. So if you have a torque wrench though, now's the time to put it on there and find out the exact amount of torque needed. Alright, so we've got all the bolts tightened down. There's only two on this thing. We got the brake pads on, we got the grease and the little slide. So it's time to put our new tire on. Try not to strain yourself lifting this up with your back. I don't know if you can tell right now, but I'm actually using my knees to support my arms as I lift. So I've got my elbows planted on my knees. I'm going to lift the tire up, put it up on there. Now, I always find it works good to put your foot down there and try to get this thing up there. There we go. Okay, same rules. Putting the lug nuts on. I'm not going to use my wrench until I get it started. Put them all on by hand. Get them a couple turns. Don't rush this part. There's nothing more unenjoyable than having to beat one of these studs out of this rotor that you've cross-threaded, or having to buy another $120 tap and die set and trying to chase the threads when you could have just taken a couple of seconds and put them on with your fingers. All right, so those are on enough. See if we can run this in. All right. Just keep in mind, I'm running these in, but I'll let the trigger go right after I start it because I'm not ready to tighten them yet. So when it hits, that's it for now. All right, so now they've all been bumped up against the rotor. The wheel's tight. Now, I was taught to do a star pattern when tightening these tires, which means if you've drawn a star, you go from here to here, back down to there, across and across, and you repeat. All right? You do that until it's tight. That way you can evenly tighten this rim down without cracking it. And again. Starting there. And I've already, and there's no more tightening that I can do. So that's it for now. Now I'm not going to stop with just doing that. So that's tight, and I think the car could sit on that. But the next step is to go get out the big wrench and torque to spec. All right? But here's the reservoir for my brake fluid. And when I was compressing those pistons, I was always told you should remove the cap so that the fluid has somewhere to go. It doesn't blow the cap off. So I've removed that cap. Now I'm going to put it back on. All right, before I call today, I've got the air compressor out. Now's a really good time to put air in my tires. So I've opened up the driver's side door here, and there's a sticker inside the driver's side door that tells you how many PSI to put in your tires. So this is your spare, which is in the trunk, and then these two are for the front and rear, and that's 35 PSI on this car. So that's what we're going to check to make sure that the tires have air in them before we call it a day. Okay, so I'm reading about 30, let's see here, about 34 pounds right now. So this thing is only supposed to have 35. We'll top it off a little bit more. You have to kind of overshoot on this a smidge. All right, so that should be about right. And we'll move on to the next tire. Last one, spare. This is usually the one that gives me the most grief. Let's see what we got. We're way low here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm running about 49 PSI, so it needs to be 60. So we're gonna put some air in this. And that should stop the little tire pressure warning light. Alright, there we go. Alright guys, so we're going to take the car off the jack stands real quick. First what we're going to do, make sure we're tight. We're going to jack the car up a little bit. We're going to get down on the ground where you can actually see under the car. You're going to eyeball it. And when they're just off the jack stands, that's far enough. Right there. Don't leave your head under there. This is not the time to play around. Take them out quick. Get them out of the way. Stand back up. Make sure you can get a good firm grasp on this thing. I find that it helps to lift it up a little bit. I'll try to do this slowly. Alright, and that's all there is. So she's back on the ground. Now for what we did earlier, is we tightened these down using the impact wrench. Now that's on the ground, we've got the weight of the car sitting on it. That'll keep the wheel from moving on us. When you pull our wrench out and check them. Alright, and I guess this would be as good a time as any to follow the same tightening pattern as before. Okay, that was about as tight as I can get those. So I usually pull those about as hard as I possibly can. So if it's gonna break at this point, so be it. I'd rather it break for me tightening it down than it to unscrew when I'm driving. So you can follow the guidelines on that too. You can look it up and get your torque specs or whatever, but you know that if you're on the side of the road, you're not going to have a torque wrench. So you should be able to do this without a torque wrench. You should be able to tighten these up as tight as you can and know that they're not going to come off. So we'll do it again on the other side. Once again, this is just the tire iron from the trunk. Okay, so this is the last and most important step. This is your tire iron. We just used it to finish tightening these tires up. You need to put it back where you got it. If you don't put your tools back where you get them, and when you get broken down on the side of the road, don't come blame me. I told you to put your tools back, all right?
Hey guys, it's our little visitor over here. It's his little friend. How you doing, buddy?